शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सिन्दूरारुणविग्रहां त्रिनयनां माणिक्यमौलिस्फुरत्तारानायकशेखरां स्मितमुखीमापीनवक्षोरुहां पाणिभ्यां मलिपूर्णरत्नचषकं रक्तोत्पलं बिभ्रतीं सौम्यां रत्नघटस्थरक्तचरणां ध्यायेत् पराम् अम्बिकाम्। ॐ ध्यायेन्नित्यं महेशं रजतगिरिनिभं चारुचन्द्रावतंसं रत्नाकल्पोज्ज्वलाङ्गं परशुमृगवराभीतिहस्तं प्रसन्नं पद्मासीनं समन्तात् स्तुतममरगणैः व्याघ्रकृत्तिं वसानं विश्वाद्यं विश्वबीजं निखिलभयहरं पञ्चवक्त्रं त्रिनेत्रम्। ॐ नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर्गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्ससुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्।
धृतराष्ट्र उवाच धर्मक्षेत्रे कुरुक्षेत्रे समवेतायुयुत्सवः मामकाः पाण्डवाश्चैव किमकुर्वत सञ्जय। श्रीभगवानुवाच क्लैब्यम् आस्मगमः पार्थ नैतत्त्वय्युपपद्यते क्षुद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यं त्यक्त्वोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप। अर्जुन उवाच किं तद्ब्रह्म किमध्यात्मं किं कर्म पुरुषोत्तम अधिभूतं च किं प्रोक्तम् अधिदैवं किमुच्यते। श्रीभगवानुवाच अक्षरं ब्रह्म परमं स्वभावोऽध्यात्ममुच्यते भूतभावोद्भवकरो विसर्गः कर्म संज्ञितः। अर्जुन उवाच अधियज्ञः कथं कोत्र देहेऽस्मिन् मधुसूदन प्रयाणकाले च कथं ज्ञेयोऽसि नियतात्मभिः। श्रीभगवानुवाच अधिभूतं क्षरो भावः पुरुषश्चाधिदैवतम् अधियज्ञोऽहमेवात्र देहे देहभृतां वर। अन्तकाले च मामेव स्मरन्मुक्त्वा कलेवरं यः प्रयाति समद्भावं याति नास्त्यत्र संशयः। यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावं त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरं तं तमेवैति कौन्तेय सदा तद्भावभावितः अभ्यासयोगयुक्तेन चेतसा नान्यगामिना परमं पुरुषं दिव्यं याति पार्थानुचिन्तयन् प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम् सर्वद्वाराणि संयम्य मनोहृदि निरुध्य च मूर्ध्याधायात्मनः प्राणम् आस्थितो योगधारिणाम् मामुपेत्य पुनर्जन्म दुःखालयमशाश्वतम् नाप्नुवन्ति महात्मानः संसिद्धिं परमां गताः अग्निर्ज्योतिरः शुक्लः षण्मासा उत्तरायणम् तत्र प्रयाता गच्छन्ति ब्रह्म ब्रह्मविदो जनाः धूमो रात्रिस्तथा कृष्णः षण्मासा दक्षिणायनम् तत्र चान्द्रमसं ज्योतिः योगी प्राप्य निवर्तते शुक्लकृष्णे गतिह्येते जगतः शाश्वते मते एकया यात्यनावृत्तिम् अन्यया वर्तते पुनः नैते श्रुति पार्थ जानन् योगी मुह्यति कश्चन तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु योगयुक्तो भवार्जुन वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपःसु चैव दानेषु यत्पुण्यफलं प्रदिष्टम् अत्येति तत्सर्वमिदं विदित्वा योगी परं स्थानमुपैति चाद्यम् इदं तु ते गुह्यतमं प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं यज्ञात्वा मोक्ष्यसे शुभात् राजविद्या राजगुह्यं पवित्रमिदमुत्तमं प्रत्यक्षावगमं धर्म्यं सुसुखं कर्तुमव्ययम् अश्रद्धधानाः पुरुषा धर्मस्यास्य परन्तप अप्राप्य मां निवर्तन्ते मृत्युसंसारवर्त्मनि सर्वभूतानि कौन्तेय प्रकृतिं यान्ति मामिकाम् कल्पक्षये पुनस्तानि कल्पादौ विसृजाम्यहम् न च मां तानि कर्माणि निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय उदासीनवदासीनम् असक्तं तेषु कर्मसु अवजानन्ति मां मूढा मानुषीं तनुमाश्रितम् परं भावमजानन्तो मम भूतमहेश्वरम् महात्मानस्तु मां पार्थ दैवीं प्रकृतिमाश्रिताः भजन्त्यनन्यमनसो ज्ञात्वा भूतादिमव्ययम् अहं क्रतुरहं यज्ञः स्वधाहमहमौषधम् मन्त्रोऽहमहमेवाज्यम् अहमग्निरहं हुतम् पिताहमस्य जगतो माता धाता पितामहः वेद्यं पवित्रमोङ्कारं ऋक्सामयजुरेव च गतिर्भर्ता प्रभुः साक्षी निवासः शरणं सुहृत् प्रभवः प्रलयः स्थानं निधानं बीजमव्ययम् अनन्याश्चिन्तयन्तो मां ये जनाः पर्युपासते तेषां नित्याभियुक्तानां योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम् येऽप्यन्यदेवता भक्ता यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेऽपि मामेव कौन्तेय यजन्त्यविधिपूर्वकम् अहं हि सर्वयज्ञानां भोक्ता च प्रभुरेव च न तु मामभिजानन्ति तत्त्वेनातस्थ्यवन्ति ते समोऽहं सर्वभूतेषु न मे द्वेषोऽस्ति न प्रियः ये भजन्ति तु मां भक्त्या मयि तेषु चाप्यहम् अपि चेत् सुदुराचारो भजते मामनन्यभाक् साधुरेव समन्तव्यः सम्यक् व्यवसितो हि सः क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु मामे वैश्यसि युक्त्वैवम् आत्मानं मत्परायणः.
Thank you, Rakesh. Very nice. So, which verse are we on?
We finished second, professor, but I think in the commentary we were at like third or fourth.
Yes, very long commentary.
Yes, professor.
Okay. So, let us quickly review the main point from last time. Trayodasho Adhyaya. This is Kshetra Kshetrajna Yoga. Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetram iti abhidhiyate. Etad yo veti tam prahuhu kshetrajna iti tadvidah. This is Bhagavan saying, O son of Kunti, this body is called the field, and he who knows this kshetra or field, the knower is called that person the field knower. That is fairly seems obvious. But what is this field? But Bhagavan, before that, he also says, following that, kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yat tad jnanam matam mama. So there are two important points in this. First of all, there is only one knower. That's a very fundamental point in verse 2, yes or no? So whenever we think we know something and it is at variance with what another person thinks, will that be true knowledge? So you see, there are various beautiful logical corollaries you can draw from the Bhagavad Gita, yes or no? Right? Right? If there is only one knower, then anything that we see at variance with another knower cannot be the truth, right? Can one person know two different things at variance with each other at the same time? What would we call that person?
We won't call that as truth, actually. If
right.
We know it as a different thing.
Now, of course, the beautiful paradox is in our common way of knowing, we change our opinion on something in time, right? Sometimes we may think one way, then we change to another thing, right? Just assuming there is only one knower, right? But that cannot be, that is nitya or anitya?
That is anitya.
Anitya.
Huh? Anitya, transient, correct? So it cannot be also the truth. So one person's knowledge or opinion that changes in time cannot be the truth. And yet the nature of the mind is such that it can have very vastly differing opinions on something in time. In fact, in the extreme case of split personality, they say you can have different people seeming to inhabit the same body, right? But the peculiar thing is also that if there is only one knower, then if we see this variety of opinion about something, that cannot be the knowledge of the one knower. It must be some limitation, right? So, and this is a very deep and powerful concept. Most people will not even think of this stuff in your day-to-day life. Yes or no? You don't think about this. Okay. And so it will seem very foreign. This statement will seem absurd. It will seem unattainable. And there will be a lot of doubts and questioning when it is first encountered. But it is the truth. And that's why Bhagavan says, Kshetra Kshetrajnayor Jnanam Yatta Jnanam Matam Mama. Obviously, this knowledge is very rare because our conventional knowledge is never uniform, right? Even if you try to become the greatest people pleaser and agree with everybody in the hope that you will attain this knowledge, you will be at a loss because two people cannot agree with each other. If you had three people in the mix, you can't make the other two agree for you to agree with them. Plus, their opinions will change in time also. So obviously, that's not the intent. The intent is this is a much deeper knowledge, right? The conventional knowledge that you see even in science, if you go and open a scientific journal, there are 5 different opinions by 3 different people on the same topic, right? So that Bhagavan is saying, that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a deeper knowledge. And that knowledge is what I call knowledge. This must be understood. Okay, I deem real knowledge to be the knowledge of the field and the field knower. So this is something very deep, very subtle, and yet obviously accessible at this instant to everyone because the same knower is sitting in everybody. Right? That is important. So we saw a lot of objections following that Bhagavan Sri Shankaracharya produced, but if you don't have objections, we will move to verse 3 in because on a first reading, it is more important to understand the main verse. And then on deeper readings, for those who are truly deeply into the philosophy and interested in reconciling a consistent version, one needs to read the commentary. So we will move to 3. Okay. No objections till 2, right? Any objections from anybody for 1 and 2? Okay. So if we accept those as axiomatic, let us read 3.
Tat kshetram yaccha yadruk cha yadvikara yat sachayo yat prabhavascha tat samasena me shrunu.
Very nice. Tat kshetram yat cha yadrik cha. That a field, right? What is it? Of what type is it? What is it like? What are its transformations? Yad vikari. Yatascha yat. And what is the cause of those? Yataha. From where does that transformation come? Sacha yo yat prabhavascha. And what the field knower is. And what are his powers? Prabhava. Tat samasena. In brief, let me tell you. Because Bhagavan never wastes his words. Whatever he tells you is very essential. The brief summary. Okay. The truth of the field, tat kshetra kshetrajnayat atmyam vivakshitam stauti shrotru buddhi prarochanartham. The truth of the field and the field knower sought to be set forth. The Lord, he lauds it in order to stimulate the listener's intelligence. You see, verse 2 is important because when an intelligent person becomes aware of verse 2 and 3, they will think, wow, this is fantastic. This is powerful. This is the greatest knowledge set forth by the Lord. So the interest will be stimulated, right? So there is a deep psychological thing applicable to intelligent people who may be stimulated by these profound statements. So, what is number 4, please?
ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतं छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः.
Right. So here also you see, we said once before that the 3 points of departure, Prasthana Trayi for Advaita Vedanta, are the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and the Brahma Sutra. And here again, in a sort of self-referential form, Bhagavan is setting forth where this knowledge is to be found. So he says, Rishibhihi Bahudha Gitam. By the rishis, the seers, right? Seeing with the divine sight, seeing with the yogic vision. Bahudha, in many, Gitam, songs. The more precise word for that would be rich, because Rig Vedam is that, right? Rich is a hymn. Here it is mentioned as Gitam. Chandobhihi, in various meters. Chandas is important. What are the principal chandas we say in Sandhya Vandanam?
Gayatri, Ushnik, Unushthu, Priyati, Pankti,
Trishtup Jagat.
Jagatya, Chanda.
Yeah, Jagati, right, exactly. Gayatri, Ushnik, Anushtup, Brihati, Pankti, Trishtup, Jagati. So these are all meters. Gayatri is 24 syllables. And they have a specific sequence, how it should be. What are the long and short, Hrasva, Dirgha, vowels, how they are spaced. The power of the chandas is that when the rich is pronounced in the correct chandas, it will stimulate the prana in a particular sequence. When the prana is stimulated in that sequence, it sets up a vibration. That vibration impels the mind immediately to the truth. So that's why I made that video on power of Vedic chanting. Vedic chanting can give you in one capsule karma, bhakti, rajayog, and gyan. If you chant the suktams with full knowledge, it is karma because it is part of the karma kand. It is bhakti because it is about the Lord and it is about swaswarupa anusandhanam. It is yoga because it is pranayam, if done properly. And it is gyan because the words are verily talking about the Supreme. Right? So this is why the Vedas are encapsulated 4-path sequence. So, Chandobhi, Vividaihi, Prathak, in varied hymns, right? Brahma Sutra Padais Chaiva, and in the reasoned, he says, in the definitive words of the padas of the Brahma Sutra. Hetum Adbir Vinishchitai. Vinishchitai is definitive, right? Conclusive. And Hetumadbihi is well reasoned, with cause given, proper reasoning given. So this is how it has been set forth. By seers like Vasishtha, in various ways it has been sung. The hymns are those of the Rig Veda, etc. See again, the exact echoing is coming very beautifully. Rig Adini, right? Rishibhihi Vasishtadibihi Bahuda Bahuprakaram Geetam Katitam Chandobhihi Chandansi Rig Adini Taihi Chandobhihi Vividaihi Nana Bhavaihi Nana Prakaraihi Prathak, various kinds. Vivekataha Geetam Kimcha Brahmasutra Padaihi Cha Eva Brahmana Suchakani Vakyani Brahmasutrani. The Brahma Sutras are those words which statements pointing to Brahman. Taihi Padyate Gamyate Gyayate Brahma iti Tani Padani Uchyante. being the means to know, to attain Brahman, they are called padaihi, or steps by which Brahman is reached or known. Taihi eva cha kshetra kshetrajnayoho yathatmyam geetam iti anuvartate. It follows that by means of them also the truths of the field and of the field knower have been stated. One should worship with the thought that he is just oneself. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 147. Atma atmeyeva upasita. Atmeyevopasita. He is just oneself. Again, because already Bhagavan said, right? Of all the kshetras, I am the kshetrajna, the one kshetrajna. Right? So, and I told you that because of that fact, although it is the most subtle knowledge, it cannot be inaccessible to anybody. In that sense, the Bhagavad Gita and the Sanatana Dharma are the most democratic of all human thought. Because it says that if there is any kshetra, in that kshetrajna, I am the only one. I am the same one. There has never been a more democratic thought than that. However, it does not mean that everybody is going to know that right away. That is also true. Otherwise, we would not have 108 billion people and so many humans cutting each other's throats and killing all the animals and burning the forests and all this stuff. Right? So, therefore, has been given some special status to those who know what is Brahman. Right? That's the only reason. Not for any other reason. Not for any other reason. Because, after all, it is the most democratic. Right? So, then what happens? The means of words constituting Brahman utterances like these, the self is known by the means of these words. Iti evam adibihi Brahma Sutra padaihi atma gyayate. Hetu madbihi yukti yuktaihi vinischitaihi nisayarupaihi. Nisamshayarupaihi. That should be, there is a sum missing. Nischita pratyaya utpadakaihi ityartha. So these are free from doubts. The words we said, he said vinischitaihi, they are definitive. They are definitive because they are free from doubt. And they are generative of veridical knowledge. Here he says, Nischita pratyaya utpadakaihi. Very definite concepts they are generating. Right? Sometimes the English in this is as rich as the Sanskrit. Veridical knowledge. Okay, we should look it up in the dictionary. Anyway, Stutya. Abhimukhi bhutaya Arjunaya aha Bhagavan. To Arjuna, whose attention has been secured, the Lord says. So hopefully your attention is also now secured. That what is this fantastic thing that the Lord is going to say in brief, which is the ultimate knowledge and which is the essence of all that is there in the Rig Vedam, all the Suktams and the Brahma Sutra. So number 5.
Mahabhutanyahangkaro buddhiravyaktameva cha indriyani dashaikam cha panchachendriya gocharaha.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you, Archit. Mahabhutani, the great elements, 5 great elements. Ahankara, the ego. Buddhihi, the objective discriminating part of mind which is capable of seeing oneself in the third person. Also called the intellect, but not quite accurate. Avyaktam, the unmanifest. Eva, and Indriyani dasha, 10 indriyas. Ekam, that ekam is the manas, the mind. Panchacha Indriya Gocharaha, and the 5 objects of the senses. So let us read Bhagavan's commentary. The elements are great or pervasive. What are the Pancha Mahabhutas?
Prithvi, Jal, Vayu, Akash.
Prithvi, Apaha, Agni, Vayu, Akash.
Agni, you say Apaha, right?
Prithvi, Apaha, Agni, Vayu, Akash. The sequence is important because it goes from gross to subtle.
Okay.
Prithvi, Apaha, Agni, Vayu, Akash. Okay. So Prithvi is the earth element. It doesn't mean literally the earth. Although the earth in its physical form combines all the characteristics of the earth element. And those characteristics are, it has the property of smell, it has the property of taste, it has the property of being seen, it has the property of being touched, it has the property of occupying space. A clod of earth has all these properties. Next one, Apaha. Now, this is more subtle than earth. This is water. The great element water has the property of taste. It has the property of being seen. It can be touched, and it occupies space. However, pure water does not have the property of smell. That is by definition pure water. Next, fire, Anilaha, Agni. It has the property of being seen, it can be touched, and it occupies space. But it does not have taste and it does not have smell. Finally, Vayu. Pure air has the property that it can be felt. We can feel the breeze on our skin. It occupies space, but it does not have the property, pure air, of smell, taste, or sight. Finally, space itself. That can only be even a person who is blind. By hearing, they are able to locate where people are. How is that? That is spatial recognition. In other words, through sound, they are able to spatially locate people. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So, the property by which we are able to access this Akash is through sound, right? So this is the Pancha Mahabhutas. The rishis were very great. While the rest of the world was exploring the world through the senses, they decided to turn inward. And when they turned inward and examined the senses themselves, they understood that they can classify all objects in the world on the basis of these 5 elements. All our knowledge of the phenomenal world, the empirical world, is completely based on our sensory knowledge. Right? So the great elements are very important. Then Ahankara. Now, in yoga, we first understand that there is the body, the Annamaya Kosh. Then there is Pranamaya Kosh. Prana flows through the subtle body, the energetic body. And then inside that is Manomaya Kosh. Right? How does the mind experience the world? It experiences the world through the property of the mind called Manas. Manas is the importer and exporter of sensations. Right? It is one faculty of the mind. Manas is not the entire mind. It is also called Sankalpa Vikalpa Shakti. It has the property of taking one viewpoint, making a resolution, and also falling into a dilemma by able to also view the opposite viewpoint. Sankalpa, Vikalpa. It can take resolve, it can also take fantasy. All right, this is the nature. That part of your mind that does this is called manas. Now, the yogic and Vedantic classification of mind and personality are much deeper than that of modern psychological thought. This you must understand. So therefore, understanding the terminology and the classification of the mind and the senses from the yogic and Vedantic perspective will make you far greater and subtler psychological thinker than you will from modern psychology. But this will take a lot of humility and meditation and practice to understand. Most people are not ready for it, so they tend to dismiss it out of hand. But this is the truth. So manas is, you will have to learn the new terminology, the new concepts. And not only do you have to learn them, but you have to experience them in meditation. So when you sit in meditation, you have at your hand a laboratory in which you can test these concepts. You don't need to go to another scientific laboratory to test these concepts. Sitting on your couch, you can test these concepts. Correct? So, ahankaraha is another part of the mind. The mind has 4 faculties. Manas, we talked about. The second one is ahankar. Ahankar is a special faculty of the mind that is called aham karomi iti ahankara. I do in this way forms the faculty of the mind. I am the doer. How many times do we think I am the doer? It is very easy to fall into it, right? And a certain sense of doership is essential to function in the empirical world. A common misconception is that I must become egoless. But actually, that's not the intent, the deepest intent of Jnana Vijnana. The goal is to make the ego pure. It is not to completely get rid of it. Only those great gurus who are in Sahaja Samadhi can truly claim to have completely raised the ego. Okay. But for all those who are seeking what we call Krama Mukti, it is purification of the ego that is sought. Right? So ahankara, buddhi. Buddhi is very important. So, right in the beginning when we say sahana vavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, right? It's a conversation between 2 people, right? May he protect us too. May he vouchsafe us too. May he inspire us with energy, viryam, right? So actually, this conversation is normally thought of between the teacher and the shishya, guru and shishya. But actually, when you sit in deep meditation, your guru is your buddhi. So you are actually praying to your own buddhi. And the buddhi is asking to guide you, right? So this buddhi, what is this buddhi? See, normally when we are in the day-to-day empirical world, we are interacting with the senses and we think I am doing, right? Sometimes, maybe rarely, we pause and we step aside and think for a moment that you have risen above your life. Let's close our eyes for 2 seconds and think, I have risen above my life. Let me put myself in a different place. Let me observe myself going through the motions of the world. How was I as a child? Cast your mind back, running around, playing, enjoying, sometimes getting into fights, getting upset, right? Then you can see yourself growing up through adolescence, youth, attractions, joy with friends, studying, in your school, in college, etc., and so forth. And all that way you can observe yourself coming up to this current moment. We can, right? So this other person whom we are observing, they seem to be in a play. Isn't that right? It's almost like they're in a play. Now, the beauty of this vantage point of observation is you can observe that person's reactions, right? You can think of this person in a third person, right? You see, in Western theory, they think that self-consciousness, what they mean is the I feeling, is the distinguishing feature of humans from animals. But actually, that is not true. The truth is, buddhi is the distinguishing feature of humans from animals. It is not the I feeling. It is the feeling that I can observe myself. This is a very powerful feeling because it's the only way that you can become aware of your faults. A person who has no buddhi can never see themselves making a mistake. Think about it. If I can never reflect on myself in the third person, I will never see myself making a mistake because I'm completely sunk into my personality. Yes or no? In order for you to acknowledge that you made a mistake at some point, somebody has to tap you on the shoulder, right? And say, hey. Now, when they do that, they are making you reflect on, let's take a simple example. There is a queue to get vaccine, say. You go there by mistake, you don't realize the queue is very long. How many times this happens to us a lot? You go and stand behind the person, and then somebody comes and, hey, the queue is there, right? This person is kind of a buddhi in the external world, right? But you can do this to yourself in meditation. You can be the one who taps yourself on the shoulder and reflects on your actions and your words and your thoughts, right? That is buddhi. So it's translated as intellect, but intellect has a very different meaning in the English language. Intellect does not always mean the objective part of the mind. And when I say objective, it has the capacity of observing us in the third person, right? So the little exercise that we did of observing yourself from your childhood gives you an example of what buddhi is like. Now, buddhi also has another characteristic. It is decisive. It can take decisions. The mind will always say, shall we do this? Shall we not do that? It is buddhi that comes and says, get up in the morning. You need to go to work. You want to apply for this job. Let's go and get food. That decisive aspect of mind is buddhi. Okay. But now buddhi has 3 modes of operation. Okay. Of them, the sattvic mode of buddhi is the one that is most prized for spiritual growth. Because the sattvic mode of buddhi is what opens us to the light. It enables us to see things also from other people's perspective. Okay. So, for instance, if you ask yourself, so somebody comes and steps on your foot and you're in pain. So you turn to them and say, hey, don't step on my foot. How would you feel if I stepped on your foot? Then you're appealing to their buddhi. It is only the buddhi that will allow them to conceptualize what it will feel like if somebody steps on my foot. That's sattvic buddhi, right? If that sattvic buddhi has been deadened over many, many years of bad living, that will have no effect. And you can see many such people like that in the modern world. If you tell them what will it like me to do to it, they cannot see that. They cannot. They will pick up a gun and go and shoot 10 people. It is not possible for them because they have dulled and deadened their buddhi so much, they're worse than animals. So cultivating the sattvic buddhi is very important for spiritual growth, right? Okay, buddhi. Avyaktam evacha. This is a difficult one. So the avyaktam is the unmanifest. And this truly is revealed in very deep meditation. at the level where one reaches what is called the prajna stage. Prajna is a special stage of meditation, a special state of consciousness, which is the very first state of knowing. Prajna, first knowing. And it is achieved after considerable meditational practice. Indriyani. What are the indriyas? Anyone know what are these 10 indriyas?
Five Gyanendriyas and five Karmendriyas.
Fantastic. 5 Gyanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas. Karmendriyas are organs of action. So we talk about the organ of excretion, organ of procreation, organ of locomotion, organ of grasping, organ of speaking. Again, these correspond to the 5 Panchamahabhutas actually. Right? So 5 Karmendriyas, 5 Gyanendriyas, 5 organs of perception, sense perception. So the first 5 Karmendriyas in the Sanskrit would be Payu, Upastha, Pado, Panau, and Vak, speech. The 5 Gyanendriyas, ways of knowing, would be Ghrana, smelling, Jikhva, tongue for tasting, Netrau, eyes for seeing, right? Tvacha, skin for touching, Shrotra, for hearing. Right? Those are the gross Gyanendriyas in the gross form. The Gyanendriyas are also there in subtle form. So 10 ways of importing and 5 for import, 5 for export. And then Ekam. What is this one? This one is the mind. Okay. There is one more, namely the mind as the 11th. The 11th has as its essence conception. Manaha ekadasham sankalpadhyatmakam. I told you this. Sankalpa, vikalpa are the properties, characteristics of the mind. Panchacha indriya gocharaha. Okay. Then follow the 5 objects of the senses, such as sound, etc. So I already told you that the 5 Mahabhutas are accessed by the 5 objects of the senses. Shabdadayaha. So Vishayaha. So what would those be? Shabda, Sparsha, Drishya, Rasa, and Gandha. Gandha is smell. Rasa is the taste, subtle form of taste. Drishpashya for sight, and then Sparsha, touch, and sound. Shabda. So what are these? So then these will be actually the form. These form part of the Kshetram. So now let us also read the next one, and then maybe we will discuss the commentary of both together. Let us discuss 6, please.
Ichha dvesha sukham dukkham sanghataschetana dhrutihi etat chetram samasena savikaram udarutam.
Right. Ichha dvesha. Ichha is desire. Dvesha is revulsion, aversion. Sukham, pleasure. Dukkham, sadness. Sanghatas chetana dhritihi. Sanghataha. This is the group. The group refers to the body and the senses. Chetana, awareness. And then dhritihi, sustentation, by which are upheld the depleted body and the senses, also being unknowable, is a field. So ichha iti. Ichha yad jatiyam sukhatmakam artham upalabdhavan purvam punah tad jatiyam sam upalabhamanaha tam artham samadatum ichhati sukha heturiti. We desire the objects of pleasure. Those things that give us pleasure, we seek to do them again. This is ichha or raga. It is also called raga. Tatha dveshaha yad jatiyam artham dukkha hetutvena anubhutavan punah tajjatiyam artham upalabhamanah tam dveshti. When we have a particular experience that generates unpleasant feeling, that we tend to be averse to. That is dveshti. So ayam dvesha geyatvat kshetrameva. These are all part of the field. Tatha sukham anukulam prasannatvatmakam geyatvat kshetrameva. The pleasure itself, which is agreeable, is essentially sattva, is also field only for the same reason. Dukkham pratikulatmakam gyayatvat tadapi kshetram. What is antagonistic, pain too, is the field being knowable. The group refers to the body. Sanghataha dehendriyanam samhatihi. That is deha and the indriyas. The body with the senses as an aggregate is called sanghataha. Chetana. Tasmin abhivyaktatah karana vrittihi tapte loha pinde agnihi iva. Atma chaitanya bhasa rasaviddha chetana. Awareness is the modification of the inner sense manifested within the group. Like fire manifests in heated metal, the group is pervaded by the quintessence of the self's intelligence or awareness. That's a beautiful analogy. Just as we take a heated metal and we can say fire is pervaded in it, so too, when we take the body and the senses aggregated, that chetana, awareness, is pervaded in it. That also is part of the field, not the field knower. Okay. And then finally, dhritihi. Dhritihi yaya avasadam praptani dehendriyani dhriyante sacha gyayatvat kshetram. By which are upheld the depleted body and the senses also being knowable is field. Desire, etc. are cited to connote all the attributes of the inner sense. What has stated is concluded in the words, briefly thus has been set forth the field together with its transformations like the universal mind. Mahad adina udahratam. So, just as there is individual mind, there is the concept of Mahat, which is the universal mind. So all that is included in the kshetra. This is the field. So important thing to note is what we normally think of as knower. That is all that we know through the senses. Our very sense of I doing, our mind, our buddhi even, all these are not considered to be true knowledge. They are actually objects. They are objects of the true self, of the Atma. It is the Atma that plays in this field, that knows this field, right? So this is an important distinction, very important point to understand in Hindu philosophy, which many people don't understand. Because in Western philosophy, straight away, everything that is thought of as known is starting with the mind. Cogito ergo sum is what Descartes said. I think, therefore I am. In Vedanta, we would say that is baloney. When your mind perishes, then you also perish. That's not true. Because then a person who has extreme Alzheimer's is no more. But we don't see that. Even after the mind perishes, something survives. Right? So, or when the mind is absent in sleep, when it has no objects, then the person should be dead. Because at night you're not thinking. So that means every night you should die and be reborn. But we don't see that also. Therefore, cogito ergo sum is a very childish philosophical idea, which was proven to be wrong by the rishis 5,000 years ago. In fact, the Bible is more closer to the truth because it says, I am that I am. It does not say, I think, therefore I am. It says, I am that I am. This is the word of Yahweh, even in the Jewish tradition. Yahweh literally means the one who says, I am that I am. Right? It's the same thing as saying, Aham Brahma Asmi. Right? The great seers in all traditions are saying the same thing, that being itself is the ground of the self. Right? When we say Satchidananda, Sat Chit Ananda, Sat is being, right? The very state of being in the deepest sense, when even all these other things have come to rest, right? So anyway, this is the field. So a quick summary: the elements are great or pervasive. They are all transformations of Prakriti. The elements in this expression are subtle. The gross ones will be referred to as sense objects. So the first Pancha Mahabhutas are the subtle forms. There is a very beautiful work by Bhagavan Sri Shankaracharya, which is that in which he talks about this fivefold quintuplication, as he calls it. I think it's in Tattva Bodha itself.
It is in Tattva Bodha.
It's in Tattva Bodha, right?
Ji.
How do the all these things form from the gunas? How do gunas become Mahabhuta, etc.? That is explained there. Panchikrita, right? So, so the ego is the cause of the great elements marked by the I sense. And so this is an interesting insight. Ahankaraha Mahabhuta Karanam Aham Pratyaya Lakshanaha. So Bhagavan Shankaracharya says the ego is itself the cause of the great elements marked by the I sense. The cause of the ego is the intellect, whose characteristic is determination. So Buddhi gives rise to the Ahankar. Its cause is the unmanifest. So Buddhi comes from the Avyakta. Right? So in some sense, what Bhagavan Shankaracharya's commentary is giving light into is that as we move from Mahabhuta to Ahankar to Buddhi to Avyaktam, it's kind of a causal relationship. One is behind the other, right? And actually that completely makes sense because the Avyaktam is called the Karana Shariram. It is the causal body, right? So anyway, its cause is the unmanifest, or what is not manifest, the unevolved, the state of Prakriti that is devoid of modification or God's power, denoted in 7:14 by the expression, my Maya is hard to cross over. Mama Maya duratyaya. Right? So, so far only is the realm of the eightfold Prakriti, and Cha adds up the different items. The 10 senses are the ear, etc. Those that generate the fivefold cognition are the cognitive senses, which are the karmendriyas, etc. These add up to 10, and then mind is the 11th. So we have covered all that. The Sankhyas designate all these together as the 24 principles. Tani etani Sankhyaha chatur vimshati tatvani achakshate. So Sankhya philosophy calls that verse number 5, the 24 principles. And then now the Lord says what the Vaiseshikas call see how beautiful. The Shad Darshanas, you see, and the various philosophies are all woven into the Bhagavad Gita, and it requires a commentator like Bhagavan Sri Shankaracharya to point out what pieces are coming from Sankhya philosophy, what pieces are coming from Vaisheshika philosophy. So the Vaisheshikas call the qualities of the self are the attributes of the field and not those of the field knower. Right? So the next verse 6 gives all the Vaisheshika conceptions. So now already has been set forth in 13.1 to 6, the field, namely the group of transformations comprising the gross elements and other attributes. The field knower's characteristics will now be set forth. The Lord himself in 13.12 will elucidate the field knower and his characteristics. The knowledge of the field knower and his potency yields immortality. This is an important point, right? By possessing which, but now are enumerated the traits, non-egoism, etc., which as a means to knowledge is styled knowledge. By possessing which one becomes eligible for grasping the knowable, and due to intentness on which the renouncer is said to be dedicated to knowledge. So, kshetragyasya parigyanat amritatvam bhavati. This is an important point. Kshetragyasya parigyanat. By knowing the knower, right? Knowledge of that knower makes one immortal. The knowledge of the field knower and his potency yields immortality. So this is the key point. Yasya sa prabhavasya kshetragyasya parigyanat amritatvam bhavati. Tam gyeyam yat tat pravakshyami. 13:12. So we will come back and read who is the field knower and what is the field knower when we return. Any questions on the field so far? So conceptually very interesting. And as I said, these verses from chapters from here on, Bhagavan will set forth the true knowledge. And you will see the dramatic and drastic differences in Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma philosophy from most other philosophies. Right? So now you are seeing the details. Right? Any questions?
I think this point, Professor, like that Avyaktam is also part of Kshetra.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, at least when I think, I don't go that deep perhaps, but this, now when it is said, it looked like, yeah, it should be, but it was never in my sphere of thoughts earlier.
Right.
Like mind, Sharira, that we can still see, but Karan Sharira is also part of Kshetra.
Right. So in the meditative progression, you remember that we talk about Vishwa Taijasa Prajna. So Vishwa is the physical manifested world, aggregate, the aggregate of all bodies and physicality. All physical manifestation is Vishwa, aggregate, macrocosmic. Similarly, the aggregate of all dream experiences is Taijasa. And the aggregate of all those causal forms in the deep sleep experiences, which are normally not aware, the mind is not aware of, unless one accesses them through meditation, that is the prajna, right? And beyond prajna is turiya, the fourth. That is the underlying. That is the self. Right?
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Dr. Shankar,
yes.
So the Kshetragya, right? So field knower and field. So is this the any modification of Brahman, right? So all these we observe, we experience different locals, right? So the modification, all these modification are they like called Kshetra field, and the Brahman is only the field knower.
Yes.
Can be separated in that way. I mean that I'm just intellectually saying.
Yeah, that's fine. Yes, conceptually, yes. Right. The goal is, I would say, the simplest thing. It reduces to exactly what Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi said. His question was, Nan Yar. Who am I? Okay. So when you follow Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi's path, the first thing is you look at your body and you will ask, am I the body? Answer is no. And that is also echoed in the Upanishad. Neti, neti, na iti, not this, not this. Right? So first negation, okay, I'm not the body. Okay. Then next one. Why? Because, okay, well, if I cut the limb off, I still exist. So each of these aggregate parts doesn't form the I. Right? And similarly, if you go through each part of the kshetra listed in the first two verses, right, in a meditative process, you will be following exactly Bhagavan Ramana Maharishi's path, and it will lead you to the truth. But it takes time. It takes some practice, right? Because we cannot step behind the ahankar so easily, right? So meditations are first recommended. First, we do Hatha Yoga. We bring the body to a good place so we can sit in meditation itself, right? And then an examination of usually starting with, once all the objects have been subsided, the senses. There is meditation on karmendriyas, meditation on gyanendriyas, meditation on manas, meditation on the chitta, right? And then all those aspects of the mind are seen clearly for us. What is my chitta? What is my ahankar? What does my buddhi look like, right? Manas, buddhi, ahankara, chitta. Who is the one who sees the buddhi? That at that point, one has penetrated through Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha. When the eye is able to turn away even from the buddhi, it experiences great bliss, because that is the Anandamaya Kosha. Right? That state, which is even beyond the bliss, is the self. Right? So therefore, the rishis, when they came out, they said, Sat Chit Ananda. This is the very substratum of being. It is intelligence in its purest form, and it is bliss. Right? So in Samas, I have given you anticipation of the next next set of verses. Right? But this is very important because it traces the path back very beautifully in two verses. Right? It also connects to what one of our great gurus, Ramana, so beautifully captured by just asking the question, Nanyar. Right? But it's a very difficult path that he outlined. Looks simple, but very difficult in its own way.
Lord
Very
Shankar,
good. Huh?
in sixth verse,
Right.
what is it that Bhagavan refers by Chetana?
Right. So this Chetana is actually, you see, when there are pranas that are moving in the body even when you're asleep, and even at the time of death, till the end, there is a Dhananjaya prana that still survives in the body till it leaves. The body is not fully dead. Okay. So he's talking about those pranas. The pranas that, so normally we talk about 5: prana, apana, samana, prana, samana, apana, vyana, udana. Right. But there are 5 other pranas also. Right. Like a krikara prana. So these are connected with the involuntary motions. And those 5 pranas continue even through sleep. And it's only when they completely leave the body that we say the person is dead. So that Chetana that he's talking about, they hold the body and the senses together. That is the Chetana.
So it is in this sense that I'm talking about awareness of the Kshetra.
Awareness of?
So here the translation is awareness, right?
Yes.
Of the Kshetra. So it is in this sense.
Yep. Good question. Any other questions? Comments? Okay. Very good. Then I'll say Shanti Mantram. Sorry we ran over a little bit, but have a lovely evening and weekend. And I will see you next week, hopefully. Today is Shukla Trayodashi Pradosham also. So very delightful day for meditation, evening. Chaitra Shukla Trayodashi. And we will have Hanumat Jayanti on Monday, on Purnima. Very good. Om Tachamyora Vrinimahe Gatum yajnaya, gatum yajnapataye, daivi swastirastunah, swastirmanushebhyah, urdhvam jigatu bheshajam, shanno astu dvipadehe, sham chatushpade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Very jolly and delightful satsang, everybody, as usual. Thank you for the Anandam.
Thank you, Professor.
See you next time.